Achievements. Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Or afternoon.
Or evening. It could be any of the time. Welcome to Relaunch Your Life 2020. This is our Embrace Your Passion Tuesday webinar with Duzie.
And I think we've probably said this every single week, but this is, again, one of our favorites. This subject we have probably taught more than any other subject in our course called Passionality. And it's a course we're going to be putting online, but there's just something about understanding your passion, embracing them, and moving out in them that is life-changing. Not too long ago, we were talking to a guy in Florida that he was from Holland, I think, and he had just talked about how knowing his being, his desire, and his strength had changed his life, and he was living in that. So that's what we want to get to today.
Yes, so thank you for coming. If you are signed in, if you don't mind, please sign into the chat with your name and where you're coming from. Hello, Mark. I see that you've joined us. Awesome.
Also, if you would, make sure that you can see the sound all right. You can hear okay.
See the sound.
See the sound? Is that what I was saying?
See the video and hear the sound.
We were having some problems with the sound this morning, so we just want to make sure it's okay. So please let us know if the sound is great. Hi, Katie. How are you?
Katie comes back for her 5-time event on our Tuesday. Welcome back, Katie.
That's good.
Thank you for joining us. A few more people will be coming. A few more people will be coming in.
That's good. Is that better?
Oh, we have last names this week. Yes, did you like the last names?
That's good. I think they automatically come in there now.
I signed that up as a thing they could put in their first and last name. Cheryl Potter. She manned the technology and she made it in. Good morning and welcome. Welcome.
Just for all of you that may know Megan, Megan's been staying with us here the last day or so.
Megan Morris.
And she just left and she wanted to say hello to everyone. She won't be on with us today because she's working, but Megan sends love and greetings to all of you.
Yeah, so very nice of you to join. I think there's a few more people coming on, but we'll get started officially, shall we?
Let's do that.
Do you want to do the little outro video?
Just before we do the intro video, please remember that any question you have, please write it into the chat. We want to catch them as we go through. If it's something that you really want us to discuss, put a little red spot in the circle there. I'm not sure how you do it. I think you push something.
It just says you can write a question. Maybe you guys who are on the other end, you can explain that a little bit better. But yes, welcome if you're on. Some people did not know that they could chat. So we want to make sure that that's available to you. It's either down at the bottom or over to the side, depending on if you're on a phone or if you are on a computer itself. And the other thing that we're going to try, down at the bottom, there's a little hand that you can put up.
The last few times we haven't been able to do this successfully, but we're willing to try it again.
Yes, so if any of you have something that you want to discuss or you want to put your example forward for us to talk about and for us to process with you about, we would absolutely love that. And some of you who are on today know how to do that. So that's awesome.
So let's get into the introduction. We'll be right back with.
Welcome.
That was so exciting that I lost my earphone.
They popped right out of your ear. So yes, once again, this is Relaunch Your Life 2020. This is Module 5, Week 5, for those of you who are that far in the process of going through the course. And we're talking about embracing your passion.
All right.
If you are on for the replay, I didn't mention that. If you are on for the replay and not live, you are still able to write chat notes, ask questions, give responses, and they will come to us and we will respond back to you. We would appreciate that.
Yeah. And the other thing is, if we miss something as it's going through the chat, we're going to try to go back and make sure we hit everything. But Suzie and I go through, when we're done with each webinar, we go back through and reread those things. And if there's something that's like, oh, we totally missed that,
Yeah.
we will personally get a hold of you and try to answer all the questions that we have today regarding embracing your passion.
So as we get started here, we just want to do a little bit of a poll. And this poll, First one, there we go. Which statement best describes you? And we would love to hear from you. And the questions are, I've mostly completed 5 modules. I have completed module through 3 and parts of 4. I'm just getting started in module 1 or anywhere before 3. You can do that third choice there on the poll.
And while you're doing the poll, any questions you ask could be about module 5, but it could be all the way to the beginning. Right. So if you want to talk about what is Zoe life, if we want to do any of those things, the whole idea behind Tuesday is to answer your questions, to throw out some new ideas, to add to it. So please feel free to ask any questions from anywhere in the course. So
welcome, and we're glad so far. For those of you who have responded, you have completed all 5 modules.
Wow.
Woo, that's amazing.
That's really good.
Good job, because we've talked to a lot of people who are still working on it because their life, their schedule is so full that they can't get to all of them in the exact time that we're putting it out. So bravo to all of you.
We'll bring you up on where we are with this course. We had originally thought this course would be released for January and February of each year, and it would just be a way of relaunching life, but it's taking people a lot longer to get through than we thought. People are saying, I'm just changing my jobs, I can't get to it till March. Is it still available? A lot of questions. And so what we've decided is that we're going to try to leave this course open all year long, and then probably close it at the end of the year as we launch something else. Now, there'll be a lot of other courses coming, but this is a course that you will be able to tell a friend, hey, you should go through the Relaunch Your Life 2020, and it will be here available. When people sign up, they will get a 2-month window to go in and fill it out and learn. But if someone has the 2-month window and then is not able to complete it, all they have to do is contact us, say I need more time, and we can lengthen it. But it's an automatic feature that someone is given a beginning date and an end date when they sign up. So just let you know, it'll be open for all of 2020. You can invite your friends into it. I know that Tammy in Africa is using it as a women's Bible study. So for her, it'll be available definitely for as long as she needs to use it for that.
Yeah. So just wondering, those of you guys who are 100% through the course so far, who would you say this course is for? That's one, just random questions. Just type your thought there. Who is the course for? Who would you recommend it for?
You mean if they were talking to someone and said you should take it,
I'm just going to type that right there. So who would you recommend the course for? Excuse me. And then I have a second question in a minute. We're Relaunch Your Life 2020. Sometimes when you put the course out there, that is the title that we landed with and we went with. But if you could have another title,
if you were to retitle
or a subtitle or some kind of description for it, what would you call it, name-wise or subtitle? How would you describe it in a way that it would say what the course is and then it would reflect it in the name?
While you're doing that, I'm going to answer my mother's question. And mother asked, she's thinking about eagles, which is great, and finding that sometimes she is the eagle and other times the other person is the eagle. How true that is. And it's interesting when you study the animal kingdom, eagles hang with eagles and eagles feed eagles. That's the way it is. And I think it's very, very natural. When we follow Jesus, you get that picture. It's Jesus feeding the 12. But Jesus also needed companionship. So they were also feeding him. He needed people. We were created to need people. But I find the same thing in my life, especially now at my age. I am an eagle for people who also then eagle me. And I don't think that's abnormal. I think maybe when you're younger, that may not be as as normal, but I think it's absolutely normal that you are around people. Iron sharpens iron. And so you are eagling people, they're eagling you. It becomes very normal. I think in the Jewish culture where you had the rabbi and then you had people that would be in the synagogue and they'd be discussing things, they would definitely be eagling each other, but yet there would be the rabbi that would be there as the master eagle, I guess. So I think it happens in different ways for sure.
Yeah, that's a great question. And we talked about last week as well, we all need an eagle and we need to be eagles, and we need a nest and we need to be a nest, and we need a tree and we need to be the tree. It's always two-way. It's an income and an outgo. And that's one of the concepts that we're going to look at next month in the new theme, the new title that we're putting on. The next course is called Flow. And we were just the other day walking at a place called, what was the name of the place?
Cochrane Mill.
Cochrane Mill. I can never remember it. And it has multiple waterfalls and great hiking area. It's only 17 minutes away from our home here.
Come visit us. We'll take you there.
Yeah. And it is the, well, we decided that's going to be the location for filming for February's month Flow, because there is so much flow that there is a good income of water, and then there's a surface, and then there's an outgo, and that water is freely flowing. And that's the concept we really want to go for when we're talking about our Zoe life, living our Zoe life fully alive and having that flow, that it's coming in and it's going out.
Okay, let's go with Mark's question.
Shall I read it?
Yeah.
I would recommend the course for anyone. I expect most of us on this call have been exposed to your teaching over a number of years. Thank you. So for me, this was an accumulation of a lot of your material. So good to make me think again, but no real aha moments where I think for those who don't know you, it could be awesome.
Yeah, thanks.
Thank you for that, Mark. That's true. This is what we've been living, and you've been journeying with us for a long time in life. We appreciate that. And you're right. This is just like from the heart, putting it out there in one consolidated course.
And Mark, you're part of one of the eagles in our life, that the whole concept of show up that we said several times.
Oh.
Came from you. And so I love that dialogue back and forth. It was interesting in talking with Megan. We've been sitting down just dialoguing, and she has recommended the course to some friends, but they haven't got engaged. And she says one of the main reasons because they probably don't know us. And I thought that was very interesting, because as we go through the list of 100 or 264, I think, people, we know most of them. I mean, there's probably 15, maybe 20% we don't know, but most of them are people we know. And so if it was to go beyond that, it'd be interesting to know how to build trust, how to connect with them.
Yep.
Yeah, we have to think through that.
And we're also very blessed that they come from 40 different countries. So people who have journeyed with us, like you, Mark, thank you for mentioning that. They've journeyed with us. They potentially know us, our heart, and they really signed up to have that included. So that's great.
Mark
Katie,
has the title first. Catch the wave of your life.
Catch the wave
Nice.
of your life. Thank you.
Nice.
Thank you. We'll take that into consideration. Do we have to give you royalties on that if we choose that subtitle or title? And then Katie says, I would recommend this course for someone who wants to take a fresh look at their life, or someone who wants to take who wants some extra energy, encouragement for beginning a new phase of life. This course helps you intentionally set the course for your own vibrant life. Thank you, Katie.
Setting the course.
When we were thinking about it as well, I think it was more along the lines of what you said there, Katie. We were recommending it for anyone in transition. We were writing it for somebody who was starting a new year and wanted to start it right, and with good values and rhythms, and really understanding their Zoe life. But you're right. Anybody in transition, moving a job, moving house, going to a new mission, a new country, a new season of life. We have many people who are taking it that are in a new season of life. They have just finished school. They've just become parents. They've just become empty nesters. They have just retired. So people who are in all of those new seasons of life are finding a lot of value in the course as
The
well.
other thing we've seen is that the 5 modules have almost become the core values in a way of where we're going. That people, if they're going to live life to the full, they need to understand what it means when Jesus talks about Zoe life. They need to understand about the importance of the rhythms and values, absolute importance of the community and how that works on different levels. And I think when we talk about the tree and we talk about the nest and eagles, we've been able to put some language to concepts that we understand but don't know how to talk about it, that in the Fully Alive Revolution will become main area. And then also with passion, that I think the passion is what draws us forward. It gives us momentum. So I think all these things, we look at them, we'll come back to. It's not, okay, we've done the relaunch life and then we go to something else. Right. All through flow, I think these 5 areas do come back.
So we just want to pull up and remind us of our course, Relaunch Your Life. Where have we been so far? We are talking about Zoe life. Tell us about Zoe life from the heart again. Small nugget. Dan can talk about this any day, every day, any second. Give us your heart.
For me, it is that raw essence of life. God created us to live. And you get that. I mean, mostly we've had discussions about this, but it's being the person that lives fully alive. And I don't think there's anything as contagious, anything as attractive as a person who is living Zoe. And I think everything connects to that. So that's definitely the foundation.
Yeah, for sure. And then our future self, on the week 1, we were talking about showing up alive. So yes, Mark, again, this little catchphrase, just show up. Showing up alive. I have come that you may have Zoe life. As we're living our Zoe life, then we show up. Ta-da! Or maybe you're not a ta-da kind of person like me. You might just show up quietly.
Maybe just a ta.
Maybe you just want to show up and be a great listener, a great support person, or whatever your gifts, your ability, your Zoe life. You show up with that life. And like Jesus said, I have come that you may have life and have it to the full. We, like Jesus, say, because of the Jesus in me, we show up so that they may have life.
I think one of the biggest deterrents, or the thing that distracts us or keeps us from living Zoe life, and I've had a lot of conversations even this week about that, is busyness.
Yeah. The
busyness of life, I've got to know what's on the phone all the time, and I've got to make sure all this is done, keeps us from showing up because we're just busy. And we'll look at that when we look at flow.
And then we talked about I'm intentionally growing my life, my Zoe life, through the rhythms. We talked about different rhythms of our mind, of our body, of our spirit, and of our creativity, and probably so many other areas. This week at OM, we're having the spiritual rhythms is part of our training this week in Created to Be. Rhythms are something that we have to keep revisiting all the time to make sure that we're living our Zoe life.
I think the key word there is intentional. Mm-hmm. They don't just happen. They're very, very intentional. And then we go to the next future self. I am strengthening my Zoe life as I inhabit my values. We've talked a lot about values, but the values, that's really the rock. And it's the rhythm that then keeps those things alive.
And then last week, I am supported by my Fully Alive community, the 3 parts. So there's my nest. I'm looking around, seeing who is doing Zoe life and supporting my Zoe life from the doing life together perspective of my net. And then there's the eagle, who has the big picture and looks down and gives wisdom and instruction and journey with someone. And then we have the tree. This is the place where we belong. And again, it's 2-way. So we need all of these things for ourselves, and we need to be able to give those as well.
And we talked about the community. I don't know if you were on last week, but I really talked about what God had really said to me as we were like, what are we doing with this? And it seemed to be, he was saying, you are now planting hundreds of trees that will hold thousands of nests with an untold number of eagles. And to me, it was like, wow, what a joy that is. This is not just one community. This is multiple communities and multiple nests and multiple eagles. And we get to help breathe life into that.
And this week, I am exhibiting my fully alive Zoe as I embrace my passion. And the three parts of the passion that we're going to continue to talk about today is our being, our desire for others, and our strengths. And that's something that we exhibit, as in we live our Zoe life showing up alive. To me, this is a recap of the whole of the course. We started with Zoe Alive Life, and then we talked about all those other bits. And now we're talking again about Zoe Life, but finding a way to identify when we're being that Zoe life and when we're flowing out to others by our desire for others, using the strengths, the talents, the gifts that God has provided.
Yeah. And the word we used there, exhibit, was a very intentional word, with the whole concept that we go into an art gallery, and when you walk around, you see what the artist has created. It's on the wall. There is no like half covering it, or there is no mask. What you see is what was created for you to see. And I think that's what the passion does in our life. We can mask a lot of areas in our life, but it's the passion that you see people and you go, I know their passion. I know their passion. It's the art, alive. It's the art exhibit of their life that I believe that's where things really do show up. It's what makes us fully alive. What pushes us forward. We are exhibiting that passion.
Like an exhibition. Mm-hmm. Yeah, like it's a show. So I just wonder, is there anybody there that wants to put their hand up and they want to come on and just be on video with us and just talk about any of those concepts so far that we have been in, and you just want to share a personal story, a question, a comment, an emotional outburst?
You can come on video, audio, or just type it in.
Yep, it's however you want.
There. We got a question from Katie.
Thank you, Katie. It's a red one. She says, we make a lot of connections between values and rhythms in the course material, but what are the connections between passion and our rhythms value? Is it like the other focused application of our rhythms and values, or something else? Wow, great question. Thank you, Katie.
Katie, you always have great questions.
Keep them coming.
Yeah, we haven't connected that one as strong because
thank you.
For so long, the Passionality course stood by itself. But I really believe when I think about that question, especially when it is in the area of desires, it's your desires for others. That is such a crucial connection between the desire you have and your values. These are desires, values, those are things that grow. You're not born with those. Usually from experiences, from conversations.
From traumas.
Those desires start growing. And so the value definitely is connected very strongly, the value and the desire. And then I would say the rhythm then is, I know some people and they talk all day long about a desire that they have, but they don't do anything about it. And I would say a desire or a value that has no rhythm, that has no, the gas tank is empty, isn't going to go anywhere. So I think that if you have in your life the passion, and I know what my desire is for others, for me, it's very easy that you may have life and have it to the full. That's over and over. That's what I want for people. When we speak, when I go places, Sunday morning, when I pull a trick out of my pocket for the 16-year-old, I want them to have life. And so if I'm believing, I want them to have life, but I've decided today I'm not going to take any magic trick with me. Well, then I've just canceled out the rhythm that is going to enable me to value my desire. So I think they're very much linked. I love that question. I'll have to do some more writing on that. Susie keeps telling me, Dan, you have to write. He has
so much going on in his brain and his heart, and he doesn't have enough output for everything. And I said, time to write. Honestly, we're working on 2 more levels of addition at some point when we can get around to it. One is our blog. We're going to begin to blog at least weekly about the subject that's at hand, because I think that's so important. We find that as a good outlet.
It's very funny with the blogs, and Susie talks about that. We have 300 blogs that have never been released sitting on my computer, and they just don't connect. And so I think, I know I have the 300 there, but I have to start writing some new ones. And that's what Josiah always says. Don't go back and redo the old ones. Just start new. So there will be some new writings coming.
So before the blog can come up, we have to re-put up our new website, which we finally got the back end WordPress put on so we can do that. So that is coming soon as we can get a few more details put into the area. The second area where we're going to begin launching soon, we don't know what soon means because it's another learning point. We were talking with Megan yesterday, and we have learned 5 new platforms in order to do this course. So in the last, not even 5 weeks yet, we have learned 5 new platforms that we had to learn to get these things started. And we're beginning to flow a little bit in those. They're becoming a little bit more natural for us. And we're learning the power of these platforms. One of them is where the course is hosted. The other is this webinar platform that we're learning right now that we're becoming a little bit more natural in as well. Another is our email. Another is the one that makes the video. And what was the 5th? I can't remember. But we've got 5 platforms that, wow, it was up on our wall. Like, this is our mind map. We have to learn all this.
You study it and watch videos and tutorials during the day, and at night you dream about it. It's like, this is crazy. But we definitely have at least 2 more.
So podcasts and blogs coming soon. And if you have any comments or thoughts about that, one of the thoughts is about, does it include our name, Duzie? So half of the people we talk to says, yes, it should have Dan or Suzie Duzie in it. It's sort of our brand. And others are saying, no, it needs to be like what it's about. So none of those are official. If you have any comments about that, we'd love to know.
So it's definitely Fully Alive Revolution, but it's also Duzie, it's Dan and Suzie. So I think these are the birth pains of launching whatever we're launching. And so we're going back and forth. Any opinion you have, we would love to see it either here on the chat or just write to us or have a discussion with us.
So Mark says, I think GV, George Verwer's what I'm thinking you're talking about models as an example, the connection of all 3. Yes, you're right. Mark, we got somebody's hand up. I'm sorry, I didn't see that. Oh, it's Mark. Great. Mark, let's try to get you on. I've got the request pending, and Mark, when you are ready, we're going to put you up there. Alice Barrios,
hey,
welcome.
How are you?
Thank you for joining us.
Well, that's great.
Okay, so Mark's in process of trying to come on. That's awesome. We will take you as soon as he goes through the system. He's done this successfully before, so we're looking forward to that. Katie, as you were talking about, I also had a thought about the connections between all of the other parts and our passion today, especially the Zoe life. So the Zoe life, when we show up, and my passionality, my statement, my being word is influence, my desire word is potential, and my strength word is connections. So especially when I show up and I am available to people, I have my desire for people is that the potential that they have to grow, for example, their Zoe life or their ability to know who they are in Christ, to know their identity, or to get through a really tough patch of their life. I desire to influence that potential of helping them be successful. And Katie, you and us had a great chat last week. I believe it was last week. And we were talking about how you can take that current situation of your life and to allow that to be a Zoe life, and more specifically, use your gifts and ability and living fully alive in that space and be contributing and using your creative gifts. And so I think as I show up and I have the possibility, I show up and I have the possibility to interact with people and have a talk and have a chat with like a heart-to-heart moment, especially these coffee conversations. I get to hear their heart, and that gives me inspiration and motivation to go research about it if I don't know, or to pull one of my resources that I have, or to be able to motivate. And these are all part of my passion. These are all part of who I am in my Zoe life. And as I interact with those people in a nest situation, or in a eagle situation, then I find that those are very, very well connected.
Okay, I think Mark is in. Mark, you need to turn on your camera and your sound.
We see Mark here, so let's get Mark into the space.
Turn the microphone on. What's happening?
Hey, we hear you, Mark.
We hear you.
We do
don't
not see you, but we hear you.
There you go. Hey,
Mark, did it. Bravo. Welcome, Mark. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Tell us.
I just want to say, I think Katie has, in her question, I think it's brilliant. I think what she is highlighting there is absolutely core and fundamental. You're catching a pirate. Because I personally think value is the foundation. Your rhythms are built on top of that, and then out of that comes your passionality. And that's why I think of GV. If you look at GV, and if you don't have all three, then you don't have it. You've got to have all three of those to have the Zoe life. If you have one missing, you don't have Zoe life. And I think they are. I've never thought of the word as rhythms. I probably have a different word.
What word would you use?
Well, I don't know. I'm trying to think over the years, because values and passion, I've always used momentum is what I talk about. Okay. Momentum. I've always said you need those three words are keywords. But what I see is
those words are values, passion, and
momentum.
Okay, great. Yep. So thank you.
And I think if I look at people who inspire me, and that's why I take George Verwer, he has all three of those. If you look at his rhythms or momentum, they're there. He lives it. But George can't even change a car tire without passionality. In somehow he's just going to share Jesus in whatever he does. It just oozes out of him, but it's based all the way back to his values.
Yeah.
And I think the person who is fully Zoe life, and I would dare say there are non-believers who have those three, but the fruit is not necessarily Zoe life. The fruit is something else, success. But I think Katie's highlighted something very key, that there is fundamentally a interaction, an interlink. They're interlinked.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. It's interesting you say the thing about non-believers as well, because as I've been going through all the verses in the New Testament that have Zoe in them, there are verses that are very strong that Zoe comes through believing in Jesus. That's a very strong theme. And then also you see this person is talking with Jesus, or this person or a group of people are there who are not believers, and yet it says they had Zoe. So it's a very interesting thing that there is Zoe in people who are not following Jesus, but the vitality of that through Jesus is a very different way of living, I think.
And I also heard you say, Mark, about the fruit of all of those things is your Zoe life. And so when we have our rhythms based in, for example, our spiritual rhythms of having God time every morning, your time with God, and whatever that takes for you to connect with God. This week I went to a ladies' meeting at our church, and I heard the most amazing presentation about morning rhythms that I've ever heard in my life. It was less than 10 minutes, very concise. And this lady, Sarah, she was talking about give it 10 minutes. Get up early, give 10 minutes to God. And she talked about going to another space, being vertical instead of lying in your bed and trying to have a connection with God. And then she talked about having some time in the Bible and prayer and We also add reflection, and we've also added journaling to our time. But she encouraged people to start a rhythms. If we truly have a desire to live for Jesus, and that is our value, but we don't put a rhythm together with it, for example, giving God a space and a time, then we're not going to be flowing in that Zoe life. We're going to have a potential for that passion to be expressed, but we're not going to be able to have the supporting elements, like you said, the combination of them. The value, I do believe in that, but we're putting actionable steps. We're doing something about it. We're going to the people. We're spending time with God. We're sitting quietly in silence, whatever it takes to allow for those values to be fulfilled and to have fruit. I think that's such a big piece and a combination. I also heard you say that, Mark.
Yeah, it's good.
Yeah.
Hey, Mark, before we turn this off, or we can have talk more, you had to try to get on 2 different times. I'm just doing a little bit of
Yes.
behind the scenes.
So I didn't realize that I was kicked out. So it kicked me out, and I thought I'd lost connection. So I came back in again. I didn't realize that you were asking me to go through some check of my camera and check of my sound.
Yeah.
So then I just decided to follow what the screen said and not try and get back via the link. So it was only that I didn't understand. I was kicked out to be able to go through all of that.
All right.
Yeah.
Great.
Yeah. The system requires you to check sound and video. You have to just say yes, 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 yes. And that's part of the way that you get in. Isn't that correct?
No problem.
Okay.
Good.
Mark, anything else you want to share about any of the parts of Relaunch Your Life? The Zoe, the rhythms, the values.
I think, like I said, for me, relaunch didn't quite do it because I'm already launched and I'm just excited anyway.
Yeah.
So,
the name.
But I have the privilege right now with the ship coming to Europe and all that's going on. There's potentially another beautiful wave, and I think all of us want to ride the wave of the Holy Spirit. It's boring where the average people are. There's plenty of average stuff. And so I want to be with a group of people that think big, act big, because they know they've got a big God, and we're going to swim out and catch that big one. And that's the Zoe life for me.
Yeah.
Let's catch a great wave and live with capital L. Because there's life with all the non-caps. So, and I think what you've got with this group of folk are not the average people. The average people don't come on these sort of courses or even on this call and make the time. And I think it's not about us. It's just being part of the church, part of what God's doing. And when we live fully alive and just show up. Ray Trainor's just passed this week.
Yeah.
And I think of Ray.
Sorry about that.
Ray consistently just showed up. But the other part to that was, and it's what you were saying, Dan, I made the mistake yesterday, and I knew it as I was driving. I had forgotten my little box of my story, and I had a beautiful interaction with the girl at the florist, and I didn't have something to give her, and I just was like, Argh. So it's intentionally just showing up. It's knowing who you are. But Ray showed up so many times because he had his little box on the back of his motorbike. He had his biker Bibles up. He'd go up and he'd flip up the back. And the kingdom's been enlarged through Ray just showing up.
Yep.
But with intentionality, with passionality, and that rhythm, like you say. He had values. He had all 3 of those things. But Ray was quiet. And that's the most beautiful thing, sorry, I'll stop. But what I'm excited about,
go for it.
It talks in Ephesians about stones. There's no uniformity with stones. It never talks about bricks. See, today we build with bricks. In the old days, they built with stones. Every stone is different. It has to be. And so that craft, beautiful. We have it here in the Lake District. It's a skill that's being lost. The guys, they look for particular stones at particular times. And that's the beauty of the kingdom of God.
Oh, that's nice.
God uses those stones. And so what you got here is, even the 5 of us or 7 of us on this call, we're all stones. We're individual stones. So just show up with your stone, however you look, and he will use you in whichever part of the board at the right time.
Yeah.
Yes.
Amen. That's my...
Mark,
good.
thank you so much for having your rhythms and your values and your passion, that you put them together really beautifully. And as you show up, the kingdom goes further. And God bless you. Thank you for jumping on with us successfully.
No.
Appreciate it.
And for being a Rolling Stone.
How do I take this off? Do you take me off?
Yeah, thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you, Mark, for joining us. That's awesome. And I see that we have Alice and Cesar with us as well. Thank you for joining us, Alice and Cesar as well. I just want to pull out a little bit about being, because as we were thinking about being, we had a little bit of a discussion. I want to walk us through it, and let's talk about this. So being, that word being, but also when we're talking about being fully alive, then we're thinking about who you are. And I like this particular picture. Megan and I were talking about this yesterday a lot, just about the conceptualization of it. So I love this picture in particular when we're thinking about being and who you are currently. And Mark was speaking about that just moments ago as well. So this guy or girl, whoever it is, was on one side, jumping over to the other side. So we are not who we used to be.
Though we had our being at that point.
We had our being, and we are not who we are going to be, but we are in the middle of an action. So we're not stuck. We're not glued down into quicksand that's pulling us down deep, deep, deep. But we're flying, we're jumping, we are in a momentum. Mark used the word momentum. And
actually, we'll be looking more at that. That's sort of like the flow. It's going from being to being.
And the question is not who you are currently, but we are in process. And the question is, who am I becoming? And so this is a little bit of a picture that we had. You know how when you go on GPS, you have the spot where you are currently.
You are here.
Yeah. And so I think when we're thinking about being, who am I or who I am is all about where I am right now. But it's also about who I am becoming in the midst of that arrow that's full of life, that's full of color, is that actionable moment. It is the process of becoming. Yeah. And I'm also going to, in the future, my being will look like this, and my being did look like this. And I'm in process of becoming more like Jesus, more able to have influence in the world by being who I am and showing up. As we've been talking about, it's the process of becoming. And in that process, that was my being. And this is going to be my being as well. And those are all happening at the same time. We are not stuck in one being.
So
it's
actually,
very fluid.
This picture is, I think, much more of a picture of the way God sees us. And this is a little bit hard. We see us right where we are, and we see us where we want to be, but we never see ourselves in two places at the same time. But when God looks at us, because he has the ability definitely to be in all places at all times, he doesn't see you just today. He doesn't get stuck on your yesterday. He's able to see your tomorrow. So his view of our being is much better, much bigger, because he sees every single day, every single moment as one life. He sees our being, where all we see is what we want to become, and maybe what we're not reaching. And this is why I think God is so gracious, because he sees the whole picture. He doesn't get concerned about just the little things that maybe trip us up, because he sees there's a tomorrow. And so when this picture, when Suzie and I were working on it, the process of becoming is really where we need to put our focus, because our being tomorrow will be a little different than today, hopefully.
Because of our rhythms, because of our values, because of our passion lived out, because of showing up and our interaction in the community tree and out in the world as well. So our being, who God created us to be, how can we live in that space? Would love to hear your thoughts. your comments, your emotional being, your emotional output. Burst. That's the word, about being and the process of becoming and how that goes along with what we're talking about.
This is always one of the big questions. We do a camp for missionary teenagers called MTO. Every year someone brings up the whole thing of, well, predestination. How did God, do we really have a choice? All the rest. And I think it's this ability that God has he's already watched the end of our story, and yet he comes back and he lives the story with us. So he's got that being in mind and this being, and he lives through the becoming with us.
And I think that's a great thing, that he is journeying with us. That always gives me so much motivation and power. And the verse from Acts that says, in him we live and move and have our being, is a very powerful one in this state. And it's in Christ. And as we're in Christ and we're showing up with those foundational rhythms of connecting with Jesus and knowing him, that we have life. And Mark spoke about fruit that values, passion, momentum, rhythms. And when we intentionally show up, then our fruit is the Zoe life. But it also makes me think of the fruit of the Spirit that Galatians talks about. That is one of the areas that we can just help us know ourselves a little bit better. Like, do we have love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, goodness, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control? Are these being evidenced in our life as we connect with people, as we're living the desire? That those are fruit, that we have our roots down deep in the love of God, and we're showing up from that love zone of being so loved and cherished by Jesus, that we do these rhythms and these passions and this desire, not because we have to, but it's because we cannot help but doing that, because we are so loved, and it's an expression of the love.
So please give us your thoughts or your questions on being. I want to give you a poll on being that just helps you maybe process this a little bit more. So this is basically a being poll. Finish a sentence. I am fully alive in my being most of the time, sometimes, or rarely. And we want to just collect this all during the day from people. But it's also good for you to look and see, when am I fully alive? How often is that? Yep. So you do that. And also at the same time,
let's chat about
finish
this.
That, let's look at the chats dealing with that area.
Yeah, so our being. And we're talking about our one word or our concept or a phrase. How do you describe yourself in who I am? Like who I have been, what I am becoming, and what I'm aiming towards in the process of living my fully alive Zoe life.
So any questions or thoughts into the chat dealing with being?
So far we have 100% saying sometimes. Oh, we got somebody else. We just got a little change here. 75% says sometimes, and 25% says most of the time.
If you haven't made your poll selection yet, please do that. We're going to end the poll and move on. So any comments from this, questions, please put them in there. But if there are none, we're going to move on quickly and hit desire and also strengths.
Thank you so much for your response there. We appreciate that so much. Yeah, let's look for just a quick moment about our desire. So when we're thinking about our desire, this is my God-given desire for others. So we're trying to find word concepts, and this whole passion is going to be one of our deeper master courses that's coming in the next couple of months that we're working on currently. One of the things that is very important to consider when we're thinking about desire for others is, one, we have fear, and that's when we avoid people, we avoid situations, we avoid even opportunities,
conflict,
and we don't show up. And that keeps us from not desiring, but the desire is God's desire in us, and this is the overflow into others. When we're dealing with God and we don't have to worry about, like, am I enough? Do I have enough? But we can show up. Then we're more on the desire side, and we take courage. we were having a talk with David Taylor the other day, and he's done quite a bit of research, which he always is in the midst of. We love that about him. He had a resource that said, anytime you are in the midst of courage,
You need courage.
You also have to take risks. So when you are trying to do something courageous, and I think living your Zoe life fully alive is a part of courageous. And our theme for this year is courageous imagination. We want to have the faith to see farther and go farther, but also have the courage to take the steps to be able to do that.
And just so you know, as we've been going through and writing Flow, the next course that we're going to do, the very last week is walking in courageous imagination, because it's something that God's just really birthed in us. And we see what we're trying to do is these are the things that God is teaching us. How do we take that and translate it over to others? For some of you, it may be something you've seen many times, but for others, it may be like, wow, that's exactly what I need. So that's what we're unpacking as we move forward.
Yeah. And the third week is actually about our fear, conquering our fear. And how do we identify those fears that would stop us? And how do we move forward?
If you're not observing your fear, you're going to get stuck. So you have to know what those things are.
Yeah. And when we're also thinking about desire, we can't forget about the net, the nest, the eagle, and the tree, and what we learned last week about community. And it's where the people meet up with. Of course, our community tree is those people we're more intentionally doing life with, we're pouring into, or they're pouring into us. But there are other trees nearby that we need to step into. And Mark was referring to that when he goes to the florist. That maybe that florist, those people who are in the florist are not in his community tree, but they're in another tree. And when we live our passion, then we have the possibility to do that.
That's good.
So just wonder, goodbye, Cheryl. Have a good coffee time with your neighbor. Thank you for being on with us. Any thoughts, comments, questions, emotional outbursts about desire? Anybody want to come on and talk about it a little bit? Katie said, I've definitely caught some desire for others and certain values from eagles in my life.
Yeah.
Great point, Katie.
Yeah, I think when you hang around with eagles who they have a desire, it gets very contagious because they expose you to things. There's a guy in our church, Frankie, and his wife, Dorothy, once a month, they do this inner city ministry on the streets, quite intense, feeding people. It is a great,
loving on people who live on the
ministry.
streets.
And I can sit just on Sunday. They had a sign-up table for who wanted to go this month, and I could sit there and go, "That's a really good idea for others." But I know if I sign that paper and I go with Frankie and Dorothy,
show up,
there is going to be a change in my life. I'm going to catch some of that desire. And I think sometimes we don't put ourselves into it, maybe because we're too busy. You know, the Netflix is pretty important in our life. And so it's like, how can I go do this if I got Netflix I got to hit? The great thing is Netflix is still going to be there. And Katie, I totally agree. It's those eagles in your life, or those people we invite, even for a season, to be an eagle. We go in and we see their desire. There are some people that you cannot hang around them without catching what they've got.
Yeah.
And I think that's a wonderful thing. And hopefully that's the way all of us become, that we become those people that whatever that strong desire, for me, it's life. And I love the fact that there are people talking about life because I talk to them about life. And that just moves along. Yeah.
Pastor Rhonda at our church, she is eagling me. We haven't found a time yet to come in the nest together and catch up personally, but see her 2, 3, 4 times a week now. And she is a shepherd. She is a person that really is very inclusive of other people. She is a person
highly organized. She's the administrative pastor over the church.
So she talks about having lists for everything. And I said, we need to meet. I need to learn your system. And she just in her way she's organizing, the way she writes letters, the way she talks to people, the way she values people. There's always a cue, a long line after any meeting to talk to her because she has time for everybody. And I think she's a picture, Katie, exactly what you were just saying. She's a picture of somebody who it has like an eagle position in my life that is having big influence in me. And David Taylor is somebody who's eagling me in a way that he is always researching, and he always is interested in asking questions to draw out from other people. And you're right, those desires are contagious. Shall we say just contagious? That it's very easy for us to catch what these other people are living fully. And hopefully when we show up, and we do that as well, that we become contagious in a light sort of bright way, that the light shines in the darkness and the darkness can't get rid of the light, like 1 John says.
Yeah. So we got another poll here dealing with desire, your desire for others. I'll just publish it here. Please let us know what you think, because this is really great research for us as we go through. Also really good for you.
So I'm able to realize my desire for others most of the time, sometimes, or rarely. How does that look for you?
It doesn't mean you're realizing, oh, that's it. It's that you're saying this is happening. My desire. You're living that out.
Yep.
So please take a moment and write those.
Those polls are
down.
Coming in.
And any other questions you have on desire, we would love to spend more time there, but also we want to hit a little bit about strengths in the time we have left, and then we can spend more time after that just answering questions.
Yeah, so thank you for those of you who are taking the polls. Anybody else want to respond in the poll? Most of the time.
Go on. Just leave that open.
Sometimes, or great.
Yeah, so let's look at strengths really quickly. It's shocking to me when we go around and teach passionality around the world. Oftentimes, people will say, well, I don't have any strength.
What are you
good at? I don't have any abilities. I'm not really good at anything. And it's just shocking for me that we don't realize God has made us. Mm-hmm. And I know we teach that. We'll fight about it. We'll do whole debates on it. But yet we don't come to realize if God has made us, he has given us strengths. Those strengths are for a purpose. Those strengths allow us to move forward. Those strengths allow us to help accomplish the desires that he has put on our heart. And so we really have to get a hold of those strengths. Talking this week, someone said, I couldn't take the strength finder test, but I took the other one that was online. The free one. It was so helpful. There are catalysts. I love the fact that when people get a hold of their strength, and this is my encouragement, when you understand what your strength is, even if it's just one strength,
right,
then you have to step into that. My greatest strength is a creator. I love to create. Mm-hmm. I transform life through creativity. Those are my words. Transform my being. Life is my desire, and strength is really creativity. If I knew I'm a creative person, I'm a creative genius. That's the way God created me, but I don't use it. Wow, that's not why God. I'm a puzzle piece that's not showing up. My mom just left, but for Christmas we used to put together puzzles that came from the Goodwill, a secondhand store. Always a piece was missing. If I know what my strengths are and I don't put them to practice for the kingdom of God, I'm the missing piece.
The kingdom of God can't come to that space, and you can't bring Jesus to that space. When I think of strengths, I also think of stewarding. And there was that parable in the Bible that Jesus was talking about of people were given different talents, 5, 2, 1. And the one with one buried the talents or the gifts or the strengths, we could say, and they didn't show up with those. But those who showed up in a big way with the 5 and multiplied it, then they were blessed, and God gave them the possibility to have more. And those that did some, they were also blessed. It was only the one who hid the talents or the strengths that didn't have that blessing of God. So we need to exhibit our strengths or show up with our strengths, and being able to put that together. My being, my desire, my strength, they all work together, because as I am being who God made me and I'm reaching out with my desires, that specific way that God has wired me, then we can live in our strengths. So I choose to embrace my passion.
I love the fact that it's a choice.
Yeah, and there's that verse from Acts 17:28 that we were talking about earlier. It's in him we live and move and have our being. And that takes the pressure off us personally, because as we are connected to Jesus, like John 15 talks about, he is the vine and we are the branches. And in Ephesians 3, how we're rooted and grounded in love, so that what comes from our life, our moving and our being, and the passion that we're embracing in those three areas, our being, our desire, and our strength, it has the possibility to be fully alive and to bless other people.
Yeah, and I think it's when we live that fully alive Zoe, through our passion, through momentum, whatever we want to call it, it is the strongest statement against what I call Christian communism. That there is a mentality today that everyone has to do the same thing. Everybody has to show up on Thursday and do this. Everybody has to do this or this. And we totally deny the fact sometimes that God made us all unique to show up in different ways. And we get so offended by people who are like themselves and not like me. And we can't live that way. We've got to allow other people to show up in their strength and bless them. Yeah. But realize I am not to copy them. I can learn from my ego. I can go down in the city with Frankie. It's not necessarily where I'm going to live, but wow, that's going to help me have a greater desire and use my strength in a greater way. So we have to really walk carefully in those things.
Cesar has a great question. He says, I have the desire, but many times thoughts come to me. Am I prepared or am I enough? And thank you, Cesar, for identifying that. So many of us have those moments. You have the desire. We even might have the being and the strengths, and our passion is there, but we say, is it ready? And I think that's where our community tree comes into place. We have those people in the nest with us that remind us, God made you that way. You are that way. You go show up and do that. Or how have you been showing up, living fully alive? Or we have those eagles that come in and show us how to do it.
And let me just speak to that, Cesar, because when we went to launch this course, were we prepared? Absolutely not. Were we enough? Absolutely not. We were exhausted. We did not know enough. We didn't
know these 5 platforms
before we even knew how to use this program. We got it. The next day we were on. We had no idea what we were doing. There's something in the Apple Corporation that says just ship it. And there are many times I believe we have to step out and have courage that we're going to step out and we're going to try this.
I have this much, but I'm going to use this much.
Yeah. So we just, for your sake, you have God, which is enough. But oftentimes we show up below the halfway mark, let's say. and when we do that, God fills us up. That's the courageous imagination. It's, I have faith to believe something I cannot see.
Yeah.
And I'm going to take that step, even though it's pitch dark at the moment.
Yeah.
Because as I move forward, it's going to get lighter. If I stay where I'm at, and if I do not move, I stay in darkness, and so do other people. So I think that the voice oftentimes of the enemy is, you're not ready. Who do you think you are? What are your experiences? What if you have these questions? But what if you ask me a question and I don't know? I need to say, oh, I don't know. I love the question that Katie asked today about the connection between the passion and value. I've never thought about that.
But now you will.
So, oh man, that's a great question.
Thank you for that,
so
Katie.
You have to step into those areas. So I would say you're not prepared. You will never be prepared the way you wish you were.
Yeah.
But like Mark says, you just show up, you have momentum. If you're standing still, nothing's going to happen.
Yeah, it's like that picture of the being that we showed. You know, we're in process, like we've taken the leap. And I like the quote. I don't know where it comes from at the moment. What you feed will grow. And that's something that's really important. That's why we have the future self statements. This is where I am praying into. This is where I'm jumping over into, that I want to live fully alive life. I really desire to live my passion. I have identified my being and my desire. I think it is, but I'm not sure. I think these are my strengths, but we have to grow our strengths. I am just starting to do, learning how to do weightlifting for toning my body. And you have to start with small weights. So when I'm exercising now, I'm using 1 pound weights because I have to grow that strength. It's this much strength, but I want to grow that strength. And so I'm going to allow that strength to grow slowly. But as we use that muscle, as we use that strength, it's going to grow. That's the goal. And we're going forward in something, and our rhythms are supporting the values that we have to make that happen. So Cesar, great question, and a very real question for us. We have to go in what we know. And that's, again, why our community tree and the support of God and others speaking in and encouraging and drawing out of us those things that are really very important and valuable to us.
Thanks, Suze. We need to do one more poll before we come to an end. Our strength.
I am living my strengths most of the time, sometimes, or rarely.
Take a moment and
we'd love to hear from you.
Yeah. And any questions, again, that you would have focused on your strengths or comments or teachings you've had, that would be really really helpful for all of us as we come to a close. We're at 1 minute and 6 seconds, so we won't take much longer.
1 hour.
1 hour, sorry.
1
hour and 6 minutes. So we're about done, but we can be around still asking and answering questions. So if you would fill out that poll, that would be great. And as we come towards the end.
As we finish, we want to tell you where we're going towards in flow and how it connects with passion. So flow, let's just talk for a few moments about flow. We've got 3 circles that we've been talking about this week: being, desire, and strength. And those 3, when they come together, when they converge into that center, that white center, that is where the flow happens. It is when our being and our desire and our strengths are all flowing together towards one area. And that flow is very much like a stream or a waterfall. And that's why we've chosen this place with all the waterfalls, because we've got some income coming in. That's Jesus and people. And then there is a flow, and there's a lot of beauty in the flow. And in water that is moving, there's a lot of life. And then there's some output from it. And our February course is called Flow. Give your Zoe life momentum. And I find that interesting that Mark used the word momentum as well. And that's the word that we've chosen to allow that momentum to keep going.
So that's where we're heading in the future.
Yeah. So coming soon, you'll get more information about that. Cesar, thanks for your comments. I'm glad that was helpful for you. We're grateful that you asked that question as well. So good.
So on the poll, we have 33% who most of the time, 67% rarely. Thank you very much for that.
Thank you for that. We all have to learn how to live our strengths and our being and our desire as well.
So we will officially end here. We have another Tuesday live webinar at 2:00. We invite you to come back for that. These are great questions. It's very interesting that even if you go on to the course and you watch one of them and then watch the other one, they go very different directions.
Our Tuesdays are very different, everyone, because of the people in it. So we want to thank you who have joined us for this Tuesday webinar with us. Thank you for coming on live. Also, thank you for those of you who have come on the replay. We have put out a survey trying to find what the best time for Tuesdays are, because we're going to continue them about the different subjects. So if you have a time that would work better for you, a day and a time, we would love for you to send that to us in any way you're connected
for those of you
to us.
Live with us, if you want to write down for you what's the best, maybe it's a better day or time, please put them there. We're just collecting that right now.
And we appreciate those of you who have made time today to watch it at this time. So this is maybe not such a bad time because we found you here, and we appreciate that. So it's probably people who are more watching the replay that we would love to hear from as well, but anybody.
Yeah. So we'll do the official ending, and then we'll come back for any questions you might have.
Yeah, stay on if you'd like to chat a bit more. All right. Welcome back. That's the official end of Relaunch Your Life. Embrace your passion. But if any of you want to stay on and chat more, if you want to raise your hand and come in and have a little bit of a chat with us, we'd love to do that.
Thanks, Katie. We do enjoy doing these live webinars.
Yeah, thank you. And Katie has not missed 1 week yet, and her first week she came twice. That's why she's the 5-time person to come on with the Tuesday. And Katie, we appreciate you, and we appreciate your response and your involvement, and for showing up, obviously, with us here.
Yeah. Any questions? Any thoughts? Comments? Emotional outbursts? Donations?
Yeah, I have a question for you. Those of you who took the poll, 67% of you saying you're very rarely using your strengths. What is it going to take, or what would it take, or how can we help you to grow that percentage higher? So you have these strengths, but you need opportunities, or you need motivation, or whatever you need about that to be able to make that happen. What would it take for you to grow that percentage of using your strengths, whether it's just showing up or identifying them or finding the right people to be in the right space with it? What are your thoughts about that for those of you who are still on with us? Or if you want to think about that and message us later, we would love to hear what it would take for you guys to be able to use your strengths in a greater way. What about you, babe? What is it for you? What does it take to grow those strengths?
I have to think about it. I think it's like building a muscle that you have to exercise it. And so for me, if I'm working on a strength, I have to identify it. Like if I'm working out, I identify it's this muscle that I want to work on. And then I begin exercising it. So I think that would be, again, it comes back to the word intentionality. If you want to become a great evangelist, you're going to have to get out there and start sharing with people. Yeah. You're going to have to know how to do that. You're going to have to go with people who do that. I think in any way, if you want to be a great speaker, you're going to have to speak. Not too long ago, there was someone who said, I want to pray for dead people and let them rise again. And I said, well, then you're going to have to hang around places where there are dead people. I mean, it's just one of those things that you have to put yourself into a place to build those muscles.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks for that. Katie says, I took the passionality course with you guys on the ship a few years ago, but when I came up with the words this time, it was so much different. I think I've been able to grow into who I really am in the past few years, and it's really encouraging to see. Katie, I wonder if you mind putting your words down there in the chat. What are your words that describe your being, your desire, and your strength? If you don't mind, just pop that in there. And it's very true. We know that is true for so many people. First of all, as they're getting to know their identity, then people don't always know words to describe them. And as we talked about earlier, when we're in a situation that prompts us, probably the word that changes the most for people that we've identified is that desire word. Because when we're exposed to people in a different way and God pours his heart in and through us, then that word for desire shows up differently. Katie says, I clarify significance through narrative.
I love that.
Thank you. That's your being word is you clarify, and your desire is significance, and your third word is narrative. That's your strength. Katie's a writer. Katie's a creator. Katie is a very creative being. And I love the way she can clarify and use her strengths of narrative, and her desire is significance. Love that, Katie.
Mine changed one time after about 10 years of working through it. Mine used to be I create hope through communication. As my life began to change, I was not focused as much on communication. I realized it's bigger than just hope. So I went to the whole idea of life. I want to see life in people where hope was part of it, but life was much bigger. And it wasn't about just communication. It was about transforming. But still, I realized that creativity was my strength. So then mine moved from create hope through communication to transform life through creativity.
Yeah.
So it just, sometimes they do change. That's a wonderful thing. It's yours. So
You're
you have
allowed
the right to change it. And the interesting part is when we release online the Duzie Passionality profile, it's going through
Coming
a
soon.
whole redo. People who've taken it before, you're going to find so much new in it, especially when it comes to the area of your anti-passion, realizing what's going to pull you down, what's going to stop your fully alive Zoe. We're going to hit that very strongly, because once you know your being, your desires, your strength, you will be able to identify so clearly what's going to stop that, and you will be able to step into stopping that before it stops you. So a lot more thought has gone into the whole course. About 30,000 people have gone through it, and now we it's really the remix. It's the same core,
yeah,
but we've grown it a lot for this.
And
course.
Also, we want to talk about how to give rhythms and values to grow that passion, and to put ways to actually put that into place so that you are living your strength, so you are living your passion that God's given you. So, yeah. So, Katie, I'd love clarify, and narrative is quite clear with your passion statement, your passionality statement. I wonder if you would be able to unpack the significance, desire piece a little bit. What does that mean for you? And how is that your desire? Can you just tell us a little bit more about that right there in the chat, if you don't mind? It might take her a minute to do that.
Any other questions or thoughts before we're at 1 hour, 17 minutes?
Yep. Thank you for those of you who are staying on. Okay, so Katie says, significance for me has aspects of beauty, value, and dignity. Okay, so your significance for others is, I'm wondering, you're just pulling out, or you're helping others identify their beauty and value and dignity. I want to see people who know they are significant, who are living fully out their value with dignity and beauty. Wow, that's very beautiful.
Katie,
thank you, Katie.
I don't know if you've ever read the book Chasing Francis. I would love to. I know you have extra time on your hands. One of the best books I ever read, but it follows the footsteps of St. Francis and the 5 values for him and for his community. You have 2 of them listed there. It was meaning, it was dignity, it was beauty, it was transcendence, which we call awe, and community. And those were the 5 essence, which this book takes this guy on a journey.
Do you remember the
Italy.
author?
Ian Morgan Crom. Highly recommend this book to anybody. It's a fictional, it's a delightful book, but it's revolutionary it captures what are my desires. And I love the idea of dignity and beauty and meaning, community and transcendence, or this awe of God. I think we live in a time where we try to answer all the questions, where really in our dialogue with God, we should treasure the questions. That there's beauty in them.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you. Alice says, or maybe it's Cesar, I think you guys are on together. Thank you for your example. Thank you for everything you do. I can see God in you both. Even we don't know you personally, you are eagles for us. Wow, thank you so much, Cesar and Alice. You are one of the few people taking our course that we don't know. And thank you so much. How did you hear about our course? I'm very curious how you got connected up to it.
And when are you coming to Atlanta? Come stay with us for a few days.
We're so grateful that you've come on and that you're really digging in deep and you're going for it. We so appreciate it. We're struggling with this course, but we're loving every day. Okay. Yeah. So there's a lot to do, and I'm not sure if English struggling. Okay, that's fine.
Is that, I'm just going to question, because
you might not have English as your first language.
Right. That's the big question we have right now.
Thank you for going for it.
We've had people talk to us about maybe putting this into Spanish and Portuguese. I'm not sure how that would all work, maybe with subtitles, but that's one of we've really tried to make some of the words we use, the concepts, simple, because we know a lot of our audience are second language English or third language English. So that would be really good to know how that affects your progress as well.
So you said you're struggling. In what way is it challenging for you? Thank you for going through it and loving every day that you're pouring into it. In what way are you struggling, and how can we help you? How can we help you go forward in it? There's a number of people who are not 100%. Most people are actually, who have come on today, are 100% through it. But it's fine if you're not. And we're trying to find ways to help people stay connected and stay motivated. We follow your work for a few years. Okay. Thank you for that. Thank you for that. And so glad that you've joined us for this. And keep connected with us. We've got so many great things that are humming right now that are just burning within us. Like we said, flow is coming, and passion, the Duzie Passion course, and then also living creatively is another course coming soon in the next couple of months.
And we have all these courses, but we're finding, because we have the this basis, Relaunch Your Life, suddenly we're seeing how living creatively and passion and all these things are weaving together into hopefully a beautiful life tapestry.
And what I heard from you today is that living your strengths or living your passion is a big challenge. And that is something that we will cover and address and try to support you in through the Duzie Passionality course. But when you have challenges in any of the area, we love to hear about it, because that gives us motivation to transform and to influence and to develop course materials or support work or networks to help you guys live fully alive.
Because eventually what we'll also do is we'll say, here are the courses we're looking at, and you'll vote to which one do we create, which one do we release next. And this will be an ongoing process.
Yeah.
So I think we've come to the end, and I've got to say this because this is what we're known for. My name is Dan.
And my name is Suzie, and together we're a Duzie.
And we are loving life.
And we're seeing good days, and we have loved this Tuesday, 8 a.m. Tuesday, number 1, about embracing your passion as a part of our Relaunch Your Life 2020 course. Thank you so much for joining us live or on the replay. God bless you, and we'll be in touch.
Bye.
Bye.